Richie, and this kid fits that bill.
Next player up comes from a high school program that you've had a lot of success bringing some players in who have really started Northwest, Palmyra High School out of Palmyra, Missouri, bringing in Peyton Plunkett, a linebacker.
Yeah, John, it's referred to as the Palmyra Pipeline. Okay, you know, you talk about Grunlow, you talk about Althoff, you talk about Obert, you talk about Buckwalter, you know, and now you got Plunkett. And this has been a good program for us. These guys have had a lot of success. He was the Tri-State Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year in the conference, first team All-State as a linebacker, 3-year starter, 3-sport kid, just scored his 1,000th point the other night in basketball. He runs really well. He's long. He'll develop into the prototype linebacker that we have here at Northwest Missouri State. He's got great instincts. Had 30 tackles for loss last season. You know, and that's, you know, that tells me something about his explosiveness and upside.
Another kid out of Florida. Probably good he didn't have a visit yesterday afternoon. But this time on the defensive line, out of Venice, Florida, Riley Pratchett.
Yes. And I'm going to bamboozle you. He'd have been okay because he's from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. How about that?
Perfect.
Mom and Dad were Cedar Rapids Wash folks, so you know he's got some Midwest roots. Moved down there. I believe Mom and Dad are doing mission work. I haven't gotten a chance to meet him yet, but I'm looking forward to going down to Venice and meeting his parents. Riley played on the 7A state champs in Florida, Venice High School. Again, this was a program that I personally visited in the spring, and I watched this kid in spring practice. He's a defensive lineman. I didn't think that we would be able to touch this kid, to be quite honest with you. With the other schools that were looking at him the day that I was there, there were several Division I schools that were talking to him, and he just kind of hung around and hung around and hung around, and we got into contact as the recruiting process went through. He's a 3-year varsity starter on a team that went 36-4 in the state of Florida in 7A. His coaches, if you go to their practice in the spring, it looks like a Northwest Missouri State practice. I mean, the structure and organization was such that it was just really impressive. He's got a big butt. Can I say that on the radio? I just did. You know, he's going to get thick. He's got great lockout. He does a great job of playing with his hands. You know, he's going to grow and fill out, and he's going to look like Cass White. He's going to look like Colin Bevins. He's got that kind of size that he can grow and could play inside or outside.
Looking at Omaha now, out of Omaha Northwest, running back here in Cameron Purvis.
You know, Cameron was one of those kids that just impressed the heck out of me on the visit. You know, he comes, you know, out of Northwest High School, wasn't the most successful program, but when you watch the film without much help, he made a lot out of not a whole lot at times. I think he's going to be kind of a diamond in the rough. You know, if there's a kid who has a great work ethic, great attitude, and a lot of upside, I think it's this kid right here. Watch out, I think you got to sleep with him.
A lot of ties between Northwest Missouri State and Liberty High School down in Liberty. More than just athletics, obviously, but this next kid, a running back, Robert Rowie, out of Liberty.
You know, and this is another kid that's a Bearcat. You know, Mom and Dad are both grads. Sister plays softball here at Northwest Missouri State. And, you know, he fits who we are. 3-sport athlete, has great burst. You know, if you watch him play, he played running back for him, can get downhill. I think I don't know if he's a true every down running back for us, but he can play back there. He can also play in the slot. He runs and goes well enough and has enough wiggle and enough shake that he can play in the slot. I'm not so certain he couldn't play corner for us if we wanted him to. But he kind of reminds me, you guys that have been around, of a Jordan Simmons kind of football player. And just, you can do a lot with kids like that out of base personnel groups. He's a fierce competitor. I watched him play basketball against Ronnie Bell, and he's not a scorer, but he's a defensive kid. And he got in Ronnie Bell's stuff, and it was fun for me to go watch that competitive side of Robert. So, you know, I'm really excited he decided to join the family, and I think he's going to be a good football player for us.
Back to the Kansas side in Overland Park, Kansas, and Blue Valley North, wide receiver this time around, Nigel Roberts.
This kid's fast, guys. He's a football track kid. Really didn't burst onto the football scene until this last year as a senior. We project him out as a slot, more of a slot kind of kid. He's a 10-8 100-meter kid, so that's picking him up and putting him down. He's got good ball skills. came off a team that won the state championship. You know, you're seeing that as a common denominator in a lot of what we did. And I just think he slipped through the cracks a little bit. I think people didn't have him on the radar as a junior, and anymore in high school football, that can be a kiss of death for the high school kid. But I'm sure glad we found him.
A kid out of Avoca, Iowa, that's a multi-time All-State honoree and offensive lineman, and AJ Sy.
Yeah, you got it. You're pretty good.
It's a good day.
It is a good
All the
day.
tough names today.
Okay, this guy makes my 2 defensive tackles look small. This kid is 6'5", 340 pounds. His frame, we've got to reproportion things a little bit, but when you watch the tape, okay, this kid can move. And he isn't where he needs to be from a proportion standpoint. And so Joe Quinlan is going to work a little bit of his magic, and I think he can transform this guy. Small town kid. Coach Cunningham signed off on him. I had Coach Cunningham watch tape on him. He really seemed to like him. And you know, the thing that struck us is that if we can get this kid to drop 15 or 20 pounds, we got something, because he can move and play with good bend. You know, is athletic and has pop.
Looking at Lincoln, Nebraska now, at Lincoln High School, an offensive lineman at 6 feet and 258 pounds, Mason Sutherland.
You know, this kid is you know, just a 6-footer, but he's a power lifter and he's tough. He's going to have to play center. He's got great feet. He was part of a turnaround at Lincoln High School, you know, and anybody that knows that program knows that's been down for a long time, and he got him into the playoffs. I like his mentality and his aggressiveness. He plays hard. He's got kind of more of a defensive mentality. He's not a nice kid. He likes to get grimy, and he has to because of his lack of height. But you know, when you place him first place at the Creighton powerlifting meet, you know, that's a pretty good start.
Next guy on the list, a running back. He's out of Chula Vista, California, from Southwestern Community College. Looks like he's had some success carrying the ball at that level.
Yeah, and you know, he was a kid that I found you know, right before the JC sign date, and really started to do my research on. I've got a couple connections out that way, and really tried to dot the I's and cross the T's, because I felt like we needed this kid. When you pop on film, he's extremely dynamic. He can play in the slot. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He is a mismatch for linebackers because he can run. He's got very soft hands. He can go, but he's 205 pounds. And he's got good balance, good vision. He can play tailback here. You know, I'm interested to see what spring practice brings with this kid, because he could make things very interesting. He's fit in really well with our kids now. He works extremely hard. I've been down in the weight room watching him quite a bit. And so he's, you know, the junior college guys that make it here bring their lunch pails and shut their mouths and work hard. And that's exactly what he's done since the day he's gotten here. So I'm excited to see in another month what this guy brings to our football program.
Now, the next player we've got has a last name that will be familiar to Bearcat fans. He had a lot of success with one Volstead at a linebacker position, bringing in another linebacker, Isaac Volstead, out of Iowa City.
You know, and it's part of you know, we find schools and we find niches and we find people that fit us, and this is another one of those schools. This is, you know, all Isaac did was play in 4 state championship games his 4 years of high school. You know, when you have brother Jake, who's an All-American, and George Seal and Kevin Arnold and Jake Brinkman, you know, we've had some good success with these kids. You know, what I'm excited about with Isaac, and I told him this when I recruited him, and I recruited him starting his junior year because I was the old Eastern Iowa recruiter, is that I'm excited about Isaac Volstead. I'm not excited about Jake's brother, because they're not the same kid. They both played linebacker in high school. They both played running back in high school. Isaac Volstead could play running back at Northwest Missouri State. He's that good of an athlete. He's got, you know, the thing about, if you understand this family and you know his mom and dad, they have instilled such a phenomenal work ethic in these kids. And Isaac's got that. You know, he's broken all of Jacob's records at Regina High School in lifting. He's an excellent athlete. I watched him. He's a great soccer player. I watched him kick a 45-yard field goal in the state semifinals that would have been good from 63. And I'm not exaggerating. I asked him, I said, who taught you how to do that? He goes, oh, I just went out and did it. He had had no formal training as a kicker. This kid, he's going to carve out his own niche. He's going to be his own person. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him because of how good his brother was. And it's really easy to not want to, I've lived 4 years in the shadows in high school. I don't want to go to college and do the same thing. He's like, bring it. And so kids like that make me excited.
I look down to Blue Springs and a wide receiver with the next guy, 6'1", 175, Trey Wheaton.
I don't know how we got this kid. How about that?
Yeah.
I think this kid is got fantastic talent. He played in the largest classification in Missouri, played for a state championship, was second in the state in the long jump, was third in the state in the triple jump, will jump here at Northwest Missouri State. Dad played college basketball at Independence Community College. He's a difference maker, and he can play all three positions. He's built. He's not 6'3", 6'4", but I mean, he and LaTroy are good-sized kids, and they've got phenomenal ball skills, and both of these kids can go. We stole 2 receivers this year. I absolutely believe that, and this is one.
Looking at the offensive line now, out of Columbia, Missouri, Hickman High School, a 6'4", 265-pounder, and Nigel White.
This young man's only been playing football for 2 years, John. His dad still plays professional basketball today over in Europe. Okay? His sister plays basketball at Bradley. He was a basketball player until 2 years ago. He can run, and he's got a frame, and he doesn't know what he's doing yet. And he's going to be a really good offensive lineman here. He's just got it. He's explosive. He's nasty. All the things that you look for in a big man to be able to run the floor, but he's got that nasty side to him. From over in Columbia, and he was a guy that we got in on early, and we got to commit, and then people started to come in. And his commitment was strong enough that we were able to hold him off. You asked me about the early sign period. There was some good but some bad about that too, because we had people come back in on guys. And so this is one we were able to keep, and I know Coach Cunningham is really excited about this kid's upside.
Another defensive back, this one coming out of Grandview High School, Javon Williams.
Another kid that we got to commit early. We had a visit before Christmas and got him to verbal commit, and he blew up. He's a football, baseball guy. He's a really good athlete. He's an explosive corner with good size. He could play wide receiver for us. He's that athletic. When you go in and you talk to his high school coach, all he talked about though was his leadership ability. The fact that he was able to transform Grandview, that he was one of those people that he was trying to build the program around. And I really dug that. And then I turned around, I got in my car, I got back home, and I can remember the night that I watched his tape, and I'm like, this kid's got skills. And he's a 3-year starter in football, 2 years All-State. This kid's got great upside. I really like him. Coach Clayton liked his ability to play press man. And so we were able out of this class to sign 4 kids that played corner legitimately. And that's what we wanted to do. And this is one of those kids, and he's not short. And so, a lot of times in the recruiting process, we would find some of those short guys. All the guys that we ended up signing, none of them are short kids. And you got to have that anymore with the types of receivers we're going against.
Well, the last player on the list today comes from Olathe Northwest in Lenexa, Kansas, an offensive lineman at 6'4", 285 pounds. Seth Ziganis.
And Seth is, a big old kid. First team All-State offensive tackle. The thing that jumps out about him is his nasty. He's a little bit more developed than Nigel. Dad is a coach. He's at Olathe West now, was the head coach at Blue Valley Northwest for 12 years. And, this kid is more ready-made. He's got the size, he's got the dimensions, he's physical, he's an intense player. Again, a coach's kid who understands the game, loves football, likes the grind, loves the weight room. And so, we feel like he could be potentially a kid that could come in and play early.
Hearing about these athletes and signing day being signing day, I guess the best thing to say is Merry Football Christmas. to-
It
Yeah,
is.
football
I call it
program.
like this is my Christmas morning. It really is. It's I get to see what we get to open up underneath the tree, so it's fun. It's been it's been a long recruiting season because of the extra week, the way the dates fell, and that was a little bit of a challenge. But if you look back historically for us and the years where we didn't make as deep of a playoff run, a la that class that just got done graduating in 16, those have been some of our best recruiting years. And I feel like we were able to spend time and effort investing into this class, and I think it's going to pay some huge dividends down the road.
Or you get your signing day today done, then look around and spring football is just around the corner.
Yeah, there's no rest for the wicked. We're about a month away from spring practice. We're gonna actually, you don't even have to look to a month ahead. Tomorrow morning at I think 6 o'clock, we're gonna have Winter Wonderland. So we'll be outside. Anybody that wants to join us tomorrow morning at 6, it'll be pleasant. We'll turn the stadium lights on. We'll be outside for about an hour, and we'll make sure it's a wonderful experience for our current players.
Well, you really separate the men from the boys there, right?
We do, but one of the things that we talk about is that playing in the cold is our reward for having a great season. And so we've got to, we start right now as far as trying to train our kids to block out things that don't matter. And that's exactly what we did a couple seasons ago in Kansas City when the weather conditions got pretty brutal.
Well, we've got a minute left here. Just overall, when you look at this class, how excited are you about these kids?
I am. I think we did a really good job. We addressed some needs. We needed to get some corners, and I felt like we did that. We needed to find some playmakers with the ball in their hands. I felt like we did that. I felt like we had to find a quarterback who had at least the ability to play early, and I felt like we addressed that. I felt like we needed to get bigger on the offensive line, and we definitely addressed that. We needed 2 inside guys. My point of emphasis on the defensive line this year was interior defensive linemen after graduating Caleb and Ben, and we addressed that. We got that next generation of linebackers. We got 3 of them. We didn't need a lot, but the quality we got was good, and I felt like we hit a home run in the secondary.
All right, well, Rich, thanks a lot for being with us. I know it's been a busy morning for you, but we certainly appreciate your time.
We're on R&R now.
All right.
Have a safe trip down. You get it to Emporia, right?
Yeah, yes.
All right.
Yeah, we're leaving in about 2 minutes.
Sounds good.
And you can hear that tonight on KXCV, KNW as well. The women's game will tip